When I say young men, I'm saying that these were young men. One of them looked like about 20 years old. Another perhaps about 20, 25. So I'm saying at the end of the day, we have to do something. But they were on Arden Road robbing our children, and they were caught and arrested. Um, you know, I don't know what we're going to do about Jamaica because the robberies and the scamming is out of hand. What is even worse than the robberies and the scamming is the murders. A 20-year-old young lady in St. James, Christy McBean, was found with her throat slashed on Monday morning. Her 6-month-old daughter was a few steps away. I listened to the news this morning, and what they said is the 6-month-old had a fever. The last time the mother was seen was Saturday. So can you imagine this child must have been laying there for the last day or two, no water, no breast milk, nothing. Could have died. And somehow our murderers in this country, and I want to say not just murderers, because some people are professional murderers, but some people just murder because their situation is going to be exposed or something's going to take place, and then you become a murderer because of your action. Ah, we are in desperate times. I speak about this crime too often on this program. Somehow we need prayer, divine intervention, but we need people stepping up now. What have you heard? What have you seen? What have you been a part of? If you don't give in those people now, you may be the next person in line or somebody in your family. So let's do something about this crime. It cannot be the prime minister and it cannot be the police alone. We have to do our share and we have to make a difference. Good morning, Danique. Good morning, Sandra on YouTube and Facebook. Good morning to you all. What else is there? I saw another story this morning that interested me because um, I just very concerned about some of the things that I'm seeing. The story about we see that children, yes, thank you, children in schools are saying that they are against schools turning kids back because of their grooming. I mentioned this last week, and I will reiterate: this is not the time to water down rules. This is not the time to encourage indiscipline. Our country has a culture of indiscipline. If we don't stand up now and be counted, we will see uh, a worser Jamaica tomorrow. We have to work today. Parents, schools and teachers and principals, and churches. I mean, I go to church and I see kids um, leaving the church compound and going to the supermarket. And I told them, I said, look here, as long as you come to my church, you don't go through that gate because it's going to affect the church. Somebody may rob you, something may happen, and let them know that if they continue to do what they're doing, not only their lives, but others may be affected. Just going to wrap up with what I started off with. Oh, gosh. Well, my producer wants me to say the right word. Worse? Worser? No, me. Sometimes producer, or not producer, person in the studio, me hear you say some things on radio, I said, boy, I wish I could talk patois like her. By the way, I got a call from Africa today that they want to do a patois devotional. My gosh, I'm looking forward to it. And I said to them, well, Jamaicans don't read patois. And then they said, what about doing something in voice for us? And I said, well, I'm going to find some people and we're going to do some patois devotions voice wise and send them to Nadine at Love. And then we can have midday devotions in patois. Yeah, man. Jesus said, my hour come, I have to go to the cross. Do understand me. Pray with me now. Give me 1 hour. Yeah, man. Same way. All right. That's a piece of my mind. When we come back from the break, how is one to be blessed in the midst of death, tragedy, and loss, which is what we usually uh, associate mourning with? Is that what this beatitude is about? Or is there a deeper meaning? Of course, the beatitude, blessed are those who mourn. Post all your comments on this topic on our Facebook Live and YouTube Live broadcast of The Rock, or send us a WhatsApp message or voice note to 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Rock. Yes, voice notes must be no more than 30 seconds. Turn your radios down. We'll share them throughout the program, and we will look forward to you calling in around 11 o'clock to tell us what you have to say. But you can also remember, send your voice notes, send your messages on Facebook and YouTube, and let us communicate together today. This is The Rock. I'm your host, Steve Blair. We'll be right back in two.
The first sound they make is to simply let the world know they're here. And then it's our duty to help them show the world why they're here in the first place.
Give them every advantage with the Guardian Achiever, a plan that provides for their educational dreams and protects their health and life in the process. For more information, call 888-4LIFE to speak to an advisor or
You're invited to listen to Dollars and Cents every Thursday at 8:16 a.m. We'll give you tips on how to make your money count, how to save, and how to grow your worth. It's all inside Dollars and Cents, brought to you by BPM Financial Limited, taking you higher. That's Dollars and Cents every Thursday at 8:16 a.m. on the family station Love 101.
The Pesticides Control Authority, PCA, of the Ministry of Health has been onboarded to the Jamaica Single Window for Trade, JSWIFT. Effective April 11, 2022, the Pesticides Control Authority, PCA, has been facilitating online applications of all import permits for pesticides, herbicides, fumigants, and other related products. Traders and their agents will now be able to make online application to obtain both pre- and approved permits, and also make payments for the PCA import cess. Benefits include a single application for multiple items within the same shipment, faster processing, increased convenience, and ease of doing business. The PCA import permit service now on JSWIFT.
Jamaica, taste it all. Yeah, well crispy fried chicken, please.
Yeah, with Pepsi.
2 orders of spicy jerk pork.
Yeah, with Pepsi.
Give me some cheesy patties.
Yeah, with Pepsi.
Hey, can I get extra curry gravy?
Yeah, with Pepsi.
Get me some fried escovitch fish.
Yeah, with Pepsi.
Taste it all. Yeah, with Pepsi.
Pepsi.
Hey small people, welcome to May, and it's Child Month. This Tuesday, May 3, is Read Across Jamaica Day, and we want you to read for us. We open the phone lines this Tuesday at 4 p.m. inside the Small People Show with Auntie Colleen, and you get to read your favorite story for us. Make it short and sweet. Don't forget now, Read Across Jamaica Day is endorsed by the Small People Show right here on Love 101, the family station.
Get ready for another Testimony Tuesday inside Alive, 1 to 5, May 3. 2 o'clock will be time for Prayer Blast. More prayer, more power. 2:15 inside the evidence. We hear from Wayne Bryce and his testimony of deliverance after being held up at gunpoint. Then at 3 p.m., we go behind the pulpit with Apostle Dr. Carolyn Graham of the Hour of Prayer Global Gospel Ministries. All this and more will come your way inside Alive, 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. with me, Sarah Amber Chirpy One on the family station, Love 101.
Here's an invitation for churches and community organizations. If you're hosting an event which offers free admission, tell us about it and we'll get the word out in Love FM's bulletin board. Simply email your information to bulletinboard@love101.org. Love FM's bulletin board for church and community events with free admission and certain fundraising events. Conditions apply. Listen to Bulletin Board on Love 101 Saturdays at 4:55 p.m. Love FM's Bulletin Board is on your family station, Love 101.
Welcome back, everyone. How is one to be blessed in the midst of death, tragedy, and loss, which is what we usually associate mourning with? Of course, when you say blessed, especially in the Beatitudes, it normally is translated happy. How do we say happy is the one who mourns? Is that what this Beatitude is all about, or is there a deeper meaning? Post all your comments on this topic on our Facebook Live and YouTube Live broadcast of The Rock, or send us a WhatsApp message to 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Rock. Voice notes, no more than 30 seconds. Turn your radio down and allow us to hear you and not what's being discussed on the radio. And we'll share your thoughts throughout the program and prepare to call us after maybe about 11 o'clock or quarter to 11 so that we can have a discussion on this wonderful topic. My guests today, Teresa Benjamin and Feliciana Thorpe. And today we are exploring the Those Who Mourn Beatitude. So, well, how do we go forward? Teresa Feliciana Thorpe is an adjunct part-time psychology instructor at the Vocational Development Training Institute and is an experienced school counselor. He is a fervent mental health advocate who specializes in compassion, fatigue awareness, and resiliency. A current member of the Kiwanis Club International and the Jamaica Teachers Association, he's been a Christian for over 20 years, and his faith in God influences every aspect of his life. Teresa Benjamin, a certified life coach and a mindful practitioner with a focus on mental wellness, and is also a mental health advocate. She's a graduate of Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, now with 20 plus years experience as an aviation professional. As a member of the Family Word and Worship Church, Teresa serves in the media and the women's ministry. She's committed to living a life of service, and as she says, I quote, with the aim of helping as many as I can while I can and paying my blessings forward. So, welcome to you both today as you join us on The Rock.
Thanks for
Hello.
having me.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Good morning. I don't know if you heard. I don't know if you heard what I said earlier in regards to. I know we're going to discuss the Beatitude, but for the next 6 minutes, what I said earlier regarding the children going back to school and the mental situations for them, and trying to speak with the parents also and others to understand, because I've met some that don't want to face their exams. So both of you are involved into mental health. Feliciano, what are your thoughts on that, and what would you say to parents dealing with children who say that, for instance, a boy said to me, Pastor, I don't want to go back to school I want to learn something about computing and go into that full time.
You seem like you're asking two questions. Clarify the first one for me, please.
How, no,
Yes.
how do you deal with? How do you, as a parent, deal with this issue where children have developed mental attitudes towards school and life, especially during and after COVID?
Oh, well, the first thing we need to recognize is that COVID has caused what is not many of us know about the learning loss, but we don't understand the social loss that has compounded COVID-19. And this is sometimes called disfranchised grief. It's where a loss is occurred, but it's not socially mourned or recognized by society. And we have to realize that students have lost. They lost time with their friends. They have lost time with their teachers. The whole world was turned upside down in the last 2 years. And they have been grappling with this reality. But a lot of us sometimes are not very sensitive to the emotional or the psychological implications of how this will impact their academics. So one of the first thing I would say to parents is that they need to be aware of these kind of variables that is impacting their students in such a way that they don't feel that they want to go to school. Give the child the opportunity to unpack how they are feeling about school and what has happened with COVID-19, because many of them maybe have never had that opportunity to explore how they are really feeling with the whole transition and how things have just been moving so fast. And now they're thrown back into the school environment, and they are now have to adjust back to that. And there are still many challenges just coming back into school. So you can imagine the kind of psychological stress that some of the children are experiencing.
Okay, let me go to Miss Benjamin. Theresa, your thoughts on what's happening with our young people?
All right, I want to just add one thing to what Feliciano spoke on just now, which I agree with wholeheartedly. But the other elements that I think we need to incorporate in this discussion is, while we're asking the parents to be supportive and be mindful and to hear their children and allow their children a safe space to speak and share their thoughts, the parents themselves also need to be mindful of their own emotional state. And because I mean, it's had an impact on all of us, our kids and the parents as well. And it's difficult for a parent to extend themselves in a way that Feliciano is articulating, which is absolutely necessary, but they themselves haven't given themselves a little space to kind of process it for themselves, so they have that emotional capacity to receive and provide the support that their children were going to need in that space. And I mean, as a part of our culture, we aren't necessarily raised and socialized with good coping skills. So we do the best that we can with what we can, but it's not necessarily the best thing. And it doesn't allow us the ability to extend ourselves to our loved ones, our children, our family, our spouses in the way that we would want. So to add to everything that Feliciano is saying, I think it's absolutely important that we as the adults, whether we are the parents or we're the village, that we do that sort of self-assessment and prepare ourselves emotionally to be able to be there and support the children in the way that's needed right now.
Theresa, what do you say to the children?
What do I say to the children? Our kids have gone through such a tumultuous time, and I think one of the huge things that has affected them and that we need to do is to have a discussion with them about what uncertainty is, the role that uncertainty plays in life, and that it's not something to be feared. It's not something that is bad. And I think probably that's probably one of the things that may have created the biggest challenge for our children is this extended period of uncertainty. They would have been whether their norm is good, bad, or in between, they would have experienced for all of their lives, their young lives, a consistency. And now we're going into these 2 years where things are just going left, right, and center. We don't know what's coming next. From they're seeing people die amongst them. They're seeing people. They're losing family members. They're seeing financial loss, and they're seeing all of these things. And it's just this extended period of uncertainty. So I think it's important that we have a discussion with our children to understand what uncertainty is and understand the role that it plays, and then also try and teach them some of those skills to be able to navigate it in a healthy way and not go to almost to extremes where we're now saying, okay, because there's uncertainty, I now need to establish a foundation immediately. So I'm not doing school because school is uncertain. School not going to give me money. All of these variables. But understand the role that it plays and the fact that we need to continue the traditional journey, go through school, complete it, get our academic or professional or technical foundation to be able to move into the next phase of life in a fulsome way. So that would be my 2 cents to add to all of the points that Feliciano would have said, which I absolutely support.
Well, thank you. We'll get back to our topic. Blessed are those who mourn when we come back from the break. Thank you very much, Theresa and Feliciano. We are going to take a break and come back to discuss this topic. It's one of those I know a lot of people are waiting for. So many mourning in so many different ways, so many needing their brokenness to be put back together. And that's why we have this program today. It's called The Rock. I'm your host, Steve Blair, and you're on Love 101. We'll be right back.
The Pesticides Control Authority, PCA, of the Ministry of Health has been onboarded to the Jamaica Single Window for Trade, J-SWIFT. Effective April 11, 2022, the Pesticides Control Authority, PCA, has been facilitating online applications of all import permits for pesticides, herbicides, fumigants, and other related products. Traders and their agents will now be able to make online application to obtain both pre- and approved permits, and also make payment for the PCA import cess. Benefits include a single application for multiple items within the same shipment, faster processing, increased convenience, and ease of doing business. The PCA import permit service now on J-SWIFT.
If you're 50 and over, a CCRP membership has many benefits. CCRP offers you great health plans through Gallagher Insurance Brokers and Sagicor, affordable home and auto insurance through JNGI Silver Shield, as well as a world of fun experiences and discounts from your favorite service providers and retailers. Also, we do outreach and advocate for the elderly. Visit ccrponline.org or any of the offices in Kingston, Montego Bay, Mandeville, and Ocherias. Join CCRP today and live life to the fullest.
Get ready for another Testimony Tuesday inside Alive, 1 to 5, May 3. 2 o'clock will be time for Prayer Blast. More prayer, more power. 2:15 inside the evidence. We hear from Wayne Bryce and his testimony of deliverance after being held up at gunpoint. Then at 3 p.m., we go behind the pulpit with Apostle Dr. Carolyn Graham of the Hour of Prayer Global Gospel Ministries. All this and more will come your way inside Alive, 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. with me, Sarah Amber Chirpy One on the family station. Love 101.
Hey, small people, welcome to May, and it's Child Month. This Tuesday, May 3, is Read Across Jamaica Day, and we want you to read for us. We open the phone lines this Tuesday at 4 p.m. inside the Small People Show with Auntie Colleen, and you get to read your favorite story for us. Make it short and sweet. Don't forget now, Read Across Jamaica Day is endorsed by the Small People Show right here on Love 101, the family station.
Yes, we're back here on Love, and we're back dealing with a wonderful topic. I'm your host, Pastor Steve Blair, and we have some very special guests. If there's a topic you'd like to discuss, or even a topic that has the church on different sides of the fence, let us know. And if you have the spiritual fortitude, passion, and knowledge and a background and would like to be considered as a special guest, well, let us know. You can write me at transform jamaica at hotmail.com. Or you give me a call, 876-295-9141. I'll pass it on to our producer. Uh, so are you mourning? Have you been comforted? Uh, I- it's a timely topic because I'm in mourning. I've sat down this week and thought about my uncle that passed last week. I've sat down and remembered all the moments. How often do we need to mourn, and how often do we need to mourn to receive comfort? Today we're talking about those who mourn, the Beatitude, and our special guest today join me to speak about this topic, Feliciano and Teresa, and so let's get them back in here and discuss this topic. So, Teresa, I'll start with you. Blessed are those who mourn. It's a beatitude. And what are your thoughts on this? Because I said earlier, when we look at the word blessed and we take the word that's given to us ever so often, which is happy, how do we say happy are those who mourn because they should be comforted? Your thoughts?
All right. As it relates to mourning, the first thing that I think it's important that we extend our thoughts beyond the physical loss of a person, because we can mourn other things. We can mourn, and I believe that it has a place to mourn, for namesake, the loss of a relationship or a dream that is now based on the variables, and we realize it's not going to come to pass. And this is something that maybe we would have yearned for. So all of those types of experiences, we can mourn them. As it relates to specifically the Beatitude, the blessing in mourning is, I believe very, very strongly, is the ability for us to see God's presence manifest in that loss. If we think about even in our own personal lives, yes, this person is not with us, but we are able to see how God in that moment of loss provides people, provides experiences, provides enlightenment to allow us to navigate that season in a way that we are refreshed. I'll use that word, refreshed. And it doesn't, in the moment, it's difficult to see as we're going through the grief process and there's the denial phase and so on. It's difficult for us to identify it. But oftentimes in hindsight or in retrospect, we're able to see where these things, these pieces just fit together, and these persons came into our lives and poured into us and supported us and walked with us through the season. And that's where the comfort then manifests. So it's to see that blessing unfold during that season of mourning. But it's sometimes we don't recognize that it's there because we're just so consumed with the emotion of it all.
Luciano?
Oh, well, when I looked at this verse, I'm like, okay, what an oxymoron, you know? What an oxymoron. Where is the blessing in grief? And if you really looked at the context of what Jesus is really saying, piggybacking on Miss Benjamin, she says, is the blessing of knowing God's eternal present. Emmanuel is there with you in the midst of it. That is one of the most transforming things, and one of the most comforting things to acknowledge. But when you really look at the word, it's saying Makarios is the meaning of that word from the Greek. And it is really, it's not only implying happiness in terms of the English language, which is kind of limited, or based upon luck. It has a more deeper spiritual connection. It is saying that God is the one imputing this happiness to this person that is broken, this person that is experiencing this loss. And he is saying that you have this inheritance. You have this inheritance that I will be there and I will provide the kind of emotional and spiritual comfort that you need in this deep time when many people might not understand you, but he's a friend that sticks closer to a brother.
Yes, certainly. You know, so many are going through so much, and sometimes when we're in that position that we are searching for comfort, we're going through mourning or we're going through all the different challenges. Sometimes you just don't want to just hear anything, but the comfort that comes, especially when you think about the fact that we've been told that the Holy Spirit is a comforter. The comfort that comes for those that are mourning isn't always a verbal situation, and oftentimes it's not just verbiage they need. Feliciano,
Yes.
um, share with us how that comfort or how people feel in receiving that comfort and how necessary it is, because sometimes we don't understand. People tell me, one lady told me one day, she says, I just don't know what to do or to say to my husband. um you know, I just don't know how to express myself to him because of his loss.
That is understandable because as many of us haven't really thought about grief, even though it's going to be a part of our lives, and we don't educate children or adults. Not, we don't really educate how this thing will really pan out. And even I was not ready for it when my own father died. I thought, as I just pass over and that's it, and I could move on. But couple things you need to understand about grief. One, grief is the response to loss. It's a biological, it's not only psychological or emotional, it's a physical situation as well. Your experience, your brain has gone into defense mode. Just like how it sees grief as emotional trauma. Just like how you were hurt because somebody said something. And the brain, which cannot really distinguish between real danger sometimes and emotional danger, sees grief as a threat, and it begins to produce certain biological um, things in your body. And this is why sometimes you don't feel like saying anything. You feel like isolating yourself. You have something you call grief fog. You just can't remember certain things as how you used to remember. You're going down the road and you're just in this state, and a lot of people have sleep disturbance. And for many people, they don't understand that from a biological perspective, what is happening to them, and it can be confusing. And society does not understand this as well, that the brain is trying to grapple with the finality that this person is gone or whatever it is. Because the body grieves, whether you lose your job or not, it operates almost on that biological level. But mourning is different now. Mourning is now ritualistic. That's different. So for the wife who feels that she doesn't know how to say anything, she can educate herself. For example, I didn't know what to say to many people many years ago, and I said some very wrong things that I shouldn't have said. For example, in Jamaica culture, we like to say, this will make you stronger. No, no, you don't say that to a grieving person. Or God wanted an angel and he has taken him. In the mind of the person at that time, they want the person to be here with them. they are going through so much. They don't. You can't. Don't say those things. So one of the things that wife, I would say to that wife, be present. It's not every time you need to say something. All right. And if you don't need to say something, that you could say, would you like me to buy you some groceries? Would you like me to carry out this? Deal with people who are grieving on a very practical level. Or if they say something, for example, they might say, you don't say, I know how you feel. Nobody knows. Don't say that. Say, I can only imagine how this is feeling, how you're feeling. You know, I can't even imagine this, but, would you like to share with me how you're really feeling about this? Do you have the words? And if you don't have the words, that's okay. That is okay. I'm here. So these are some of the things you can say. And you can say things like, I'm praying for you, I'll be supporting you. So do practical things and understand, as also another thing, men grieve differently from women.
Yes.
On a cultural level, we do. And a lot of times we are stigmatized for our grief because we're not bawling down the place, we're not throwing a tantrum, which makes me jealous of women sometimes. We're not throwing a tantrum and all these things. And this is where we might be stigmatized, what they call disfranchised grief, because we are not grieving the way society wants us to grieve. Men tend sometimes to be very isolated and to try to take control and try to appear strong. And it can backfire on us because we do need an outlet as well to unpack, or what they call masculine grief, unpack our grief, so that we can heal and we can manage our grief. Because the truth is, I don't believe grief is something that you really get over. You learn to manage it. You learn to grow with it and to move forward with it. And this is why maybe Jesus said, blessed are those who grieve, because in psychology, there's something called post-traumatic grief. These are the psychological benefits that comes as a result of grief. Because one thing I can tell you, once you have lost somebody, your priority changes. You get very, very sentimental for certain things, and life has a far more meaning, and you get very conscious of time. You see that you're very vulnerable, and you tend to develop more empathy towards people as well, and you begin to develop a maybe more positive attitude towards life and how you even see your life. And
Yes.
and so that's some inner gist. That's some inner gist. Yes.
Teresa, the whole thought of dealing with grief. Um, you spoke earlier, so I'm going to come back to the same thing you said.
Mhm.
Um, People dealing with grief, reading through the Bible, seeing Jesus preaching to the multitude. The Bible says, and when he was set, he began to speak and he gave them the Beatitudes. Why would Jesus turn in a message of um, like this? Blessed are those, blessed are those, and then after the first one, he comes to blessed are those who mourn. In the middle of a sermon like this, um, what is the importance of saying to people while you're teaching them about spiritual happiness, spiritual prosperity? Blessed are those who mourn.
The importance of it is that it is a part of the natural human experience. And it's easy for us in our humanity to view this aspect of the human experience as a negative, as a curse, almost a curse, I would say, as something that, how can this be a part of the human experience? But it is natural, it is normal, and there, as Feliciano beautifully articulated a moment ago, there is a blessing in it, in that we get an opportunity to experience the presence of God in a different way. We experience Him in a larger, probably a larger portion of our lives as the provider, the caregiver, the father, the brother, the supporter, all of those variables. But no, but then the things that we love in the earth are with us in that journey as well. So no, we're looking at him as, we're able to experience him rather as a true comforter in the presence of earthly loss. And that is a new paradigm that is absolutely a blessing. And it is unlike any experience that we will have with the presence of God in any other aspect of our life. So it is the Beatitudes, in my opinion, it runs the gamut of the life experience. And he's articulating to us that there are blessings in every aspect of our lives and in every phase and interaction with him. And death, loss, grief is, as I said, a natural part occurring in life. And he is there in it. And he's providing for us in the way that we need during that season.
You know, when you think about Jamaica, and I'm sure both of you would agree with me that you walk around, and every time I talk about this, I mean, people probably wonder why I do this. But as you walk around, everybody wants a blessing, a blessing. Everybody wants a blessing. And sometimes our attitude is that we're only gonna be blessed with good things. We're only gonna be blessed. We're only gonna get more from God. We're only gonna get this from God. And so people pay the tithe, people buy their bottle of olive oil, and people do their fasting, and because they don't see the ambits of what you're saying, they don't see the fact that this humanity opens doors of sorrow and other elements and other areas that allows God to truly comfort us. This is a major lesson for Jamaica, Teresa.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it is, and it comes back down to the humanity again, because we don't want to experience discomfort. We don't want to experience pain. I don't want it. I understand intellectually the role that it plays in my life and my evolution and continued growth, but I don't want it. If I can get those lessons in a much more comfortable way, sign me up. I'm there. But so I understand the reluctance of us as human beings to embrace that aspect of society, of our experience, rather, not society, our experience. I completely get it. But it is now for us to tap into what does the word say and what does God say when we go through these seasons. In the midst of us feeling like everything is falling apart and we're absolutely alone, his word says that we're not. And his word says that there's blessings to be experienced. Him can't lie. God is incapable of lying. God is incapable of changing his mind. So it is for us to avail ourselves to the experience. He's there. And oftentimes, as I would have said earlier, we only recognize it in retrospect. And we miss the opportunity to experience it in a full way because we're so consumed with, I don't want to be here. I don't want to feel this. But he's there. We just have to avail ourselves.
Yes, one writer writes in the Beatitudes, Jesus reminds his disciples that they cannot seek happiness the way the world does. They can't view happiness the way the world does. True joy is not found in selfish ambition, excuses, or self justification. An enviable state of blessedness comes to those who mourn. And in this case, some theologians say that the mourning is due to our sin. And he says, these are the ones I look on with favor, those who are humble and contrite in spirit and who tremble at my word. So Jesus does say that he's there he says, the Spirit of the Lord has anointed me. And a part of that anointing comes because of the brokenhearted. Feliciano,
Yes.
um, I have another question for you, but I'm going to go into this first. The brokenhearted. Sometimes it's not just the sorrow, but brokenhearted. Those who are, I know people who've been engaged several times and not married. I know people who have been divorced 2 or 3 times. I know all of these situations, and so it impacts how they view life. But Jesus says, "There's comfort for you, and I'm anointed for that comfort."
Yes. Um, it's quite fascinating that we're talking about this because mourning is one of the most universal things that right across the board, right across demographics, right across denominations, right across religious borders. It's the human experience that all of us will experience. But unfortunately, it threatens our idea of happiness. And because it threatens, cognitive dissonance, it causes us to really come to terms with our fragility and that one day I'm going to die and nobody wants to process that. And so when Jesus is saying this, it's like he's flipping the script. He's flipping the thing now because here he has because when you look at the verse, he's really specifically appeared to be talking to the disciples, and they'll be going through a lot of loss. He's going to die, and they certainly didn't want that. That is expressed through their actions. Because when he's talking about it, Peter is like, no, no, Lord, what are you talking about? As a matter of fact, Jesus had to rebuke him personally because this was a part of his purpose. But they didn't come to terms that after he died, what actually would happen. And Jesus said, I have to go to the cross and I have to go away. And this all made them grieve and this all made them mourn. But look at the result today. And this is why Jesus was speaking to them in this fashion. And he's still speaking this way to us. Right now, the intensity of the grief, you won't really feel that this has anything good to offer. And your brain might be going through what they call grief brain. You might not be processing things. And guess what? That is okay. You have to go through these kind of things. But eventually, you will begin to see some change in yourself in the way you treat others or you treat yourself personally. Definitely, I can tell you that. And you are going to have a more comprehensive look at life. It's not going to be as shallow as you maybe first saw it. And even your conversations with people, you tend to not gravitate to those shallow conversations because you're looking for something more meaty, something more that is more solid. And so grief kind of helps us to position ourselves to recognize that we have to give it our all or not at all. It kind of wake us up.
But I hear you saying something that you're not conflicting yourself, but you're speaking from a different position now. Because
Yes.
earlier you said that some people when they find somebody grieving would say, "Okay, you're gonna grow from this," or "Don't worry about it." But the fact is, you do grow. You
Yes.
you you do grow, and you're able to help others also
Yes.
when you get through it. A good example. I'm gonna throw this one at you. Um, I went through a period of separation and then divorce. Um, and when I got through it, I said, my gosh, as a pastor, if somebody had come to me before, I'd have just tell them, stick in it, stay in it. But the moment I went through that grief, it became a different ball game. I finally
Yes.
understood what others have been crying about. I finally understood what others have been giving up life on, and so my approach has been totally different because I've grown through mourning and discomfort.
Yes, I concur. I wasn't ready for grief, even though I was a counselor and I was supporting people who grieve and all that. But when it really hit home 5 years ago, my dad died. It was a whole different world and a different ball game, and my entire life has changed. And there's something that comes with grief.
We're gonna talk about your grief and maybe if Teresa has a story, we'll talk about that and we'll talk about
Yes,
growth and we'll talk about moving forward. When
yes,
we come back, it's time for the
yes.
11 o'clock break. And we wanted to let our listeners know that you can call in today to Love FM, talk about grief. I see Elsie on Facebook saying, so true, Feliciano. I lost my brother in 2020. and I can't get over it because he was young and leaving his children behind, and his death so complicated. I know so many have so much to say, so much to share, and you'll get that chance. When you come back, it's 968-8327, 968-8328. You can call in and talk. Maybe you are the one in the position of mourning and you need comfort. We're here for you today. You'll be right back here on Love FM. This is The Rock.
Here's an invitation for churches and community organizations. If you're hosting an event which offers free admission, tell us about it and we'll get the word out in Love FM's bulletin board. Simply email your information to bulletinboard@love101.org. Love FM's bulletin board for church and community events with free admission and certain fundraising events. Conditions apply. Listen to Bulletin Board on Love 101 Saturdays at 4:55 p.m. Love FM's Bulletin Board is on your family station, Love 101.
Parenting is the most difficult job in the world. Thankfully, Parenting Jamaica has some tips to help you do a better job. Here's one.
If you hear your baby say, see the dog there, don't cuss him same chat bad. It's the mother tongue him talking. If you correct him, it a go confuse him. Just make him know say, there's a time and place for everything. If you constantly tell your baby say, him talk bad, this a go make him afraid for chat at school and it a go mess with him learning process. Send him go Sunday school and church. Him will learn to understand that the two languages have them place.
To find out more about parenting style, visit the Parenting Jamaica blog at parentingjamaica.com or follow us on Twitter at parentingjam.
You're invited to listen to Dollars and Cents every Thursday at 8:16 a.m. We'll give you tips on how to make your money count, how to save, and how to grow your worth. It's all inside Dollars and Cents, brought to you by BPM Financial Limited, taking you higher. That's Dollars and Cents every Thursday at 8:16 a.m. on the family station, Love 101.
Sometimes all we need is a listening ear. The listening ear, the counseling, the logical reasoning, and spiritual guidance are what appeal to us. That's why I'm here. I'm Dr. Joan Pinkney, the counselor, your counselor on Love 101 FM, Tuesdays and Wednesdays, 10 to 11 p.m. You know you can call on me. I will listen and more. So let's talk about what's bothering you. Anything. Tune in, listen, call in, text or voice message. I'm Dr. Joan Pinkney, counseling psychologist, ready with a listening ear. Tuesdays and Wednesdays, 10 to 11 p.m. Right here on the family station, Love 101 FM.
Show mom how much you love her this Mother's Day at H&L Rapid True Values I Heart Mom sale. From Friday, May 6th to Sunday, May 8th. Get up to 40% off select home decor. And if choosing a gift is too hard, give some love with an H&L gift card. Shop online at hardwareandlumber.com. Delivery and curbside pickup available. Conditions apply. You love mom, and H&L Rapid True Value does too.
What should you be saving towards? First things first, pay yourself first. Have you set aside money for an emergency fund? It's important to consider how you will meet your expenses if you have an accident, lose your job, or get sick and you are unable to work. Save towards having at least 6 months' income for a rainy day. You'll never know when you might have an emergency.
This financial literacy tip was brought to you by Bank of Jamaica, building an inclusive economy.
Okay, we're back. It's The Rock. I'm Steve Blair. I think we're looking forward to your voice notes and we're looking forward to your comments. There are some comments on Facebook and YouTube. And it's something I'm very thankful for. Before I go to the Facebook people, because you know I love you like that, let me take time to welcome in voice notes. So let's hear what you have to say.
Good morning, Pastor Steve and panelists. I love this topic. You know, I lost my mother and my big brother 4 months apart 4 years ago. I'm afraid to look at my mother's, I would say, program, the program that we use at the funeral. I hide it in the house. I'm afraid to look at it. And it does stand up in my face. How can I get over it? I prayed. But sometimes, you know, they just come back to me. Even my big brother was a mechanic, and when my relatives, my children car need fixing, I remember him. And when I saw his daughter, you know, sometimes it's very hard. And I see my little sister feeling sick now. She's a cancer survivor, but still feeling ill. My head just, a lot of things coming up in my mind. I'll continue to listen to your program.
Hmm. Wow, that's something. You know, I probably do about 2 or 3 funerals every month, and not just that, I'm dealing with other elements of grief or pain. Um, we've gotten to the point now where we've even touched growing. But before we delve more into the growing aspect of it, let me pull back out our guest. Feliciana was speaking about his own situation, and then I'll hear a little bit of Teresa's. You've heard mine. I've never been afraid to speak of it, even though I get stoned by some every once in a while about being a pastor who's been divorced. Some things we can't change. We can't stop dying. We're gonna have to die. We can't we can't determine the circumstances of our lives. Or something is gonna happen. But my favorite song through my situation I give to you as I get ready to bring Feliciano back in. I've had many tears and sorrows. I've had questions for tomorrow. This is Andre Crouch. There are times I felt so all alone, but in every situation, God gave blessed consolation that my trials come to make me strong. And I am a living testimony because I'm stronger. So I say, through it all, I've learned to trust in Jesus. I've learned to trust in God. Still going through some things, but through it all, I've learned to depend upon His words, to walk by faith and not by sight. Um, oh, we had gotten a caller and never took the call. So, caller, please call back. Want to hear what you're going through. So, Feliciano,
Yes.
start, continue. If the call comes in, I'll stop you, but just continue because we need to connect with some people and then we'll wrap up with some words of comfort in the last 30 minutes. Go ahead.
Yes, a 5 year, around 4.5 to 5 years ago, my life, even though I was somebody, a school counselor, I was considered a spiritual leader at church, and I was there for so many people when they had their own um, beloved one died. Was there supporting them. But when my own came at my own doorstep, it was a whole different experience. And my experience was kind of a little bit unique because I really lost the first grief that I encountered my father. That I lost him at 8 because he left my life at 8 years old. So when he died 5.5 years ago, I lost him forever. And just remember, I have not seen him since I was 8 years old.
Oh my gosh.
And that just,
And most people would not understand what that means to a male, to a
yes.
young man. Yes.
So at first, you kind of say, everything will get over, you're back at church, no time, get back into the rhythm of things, singing your songs. But that did not happen. And I experienced something they call secondary losses. Secondary losses is the multiple losses that comes with the primary loss. of something that died or whatever, it's a job or whatever, what comes with it. And many people are not aware. The first thing, I became an orphan and I didn't even realize. I had to grapple with that reality. My siblings became an orphan and I had to grapple with that as well. And not only that, I lost it's like my social life went down because I became very secluded because I'm trying to understand what's really going on with me. And I really didn't understand what was happening to me. And a lot of times, many people didn't know how to approach me because I was seen as a strong one. And maybe Pastor can understand me a little bit. I was seen as a strong one, and this time I just wasn't strong enough. And I lost maybe I even lost my church in a sense, my community, because I just couldn't function in all of these um, as praise and worship leader, as being there as a counselor, supporting. I just couldn't do it
You have
anymore.
to be the one to lift everybody up, but you are the one
Yes.
that's there.
And
You
many
know.
people didn't know how to come into my space.
Mhm.
So good thing I was studying psychology at the graduate level at that time, thankfully. And then I came across tantonology, which really means in the science of grief and death, understanding
Wow.
the whole biological aspect of grief and really understanding from a physical and a psychological level what's really going on with me. And I delved into that, and that helped me to become very self-aware of what was really happening. And if I was upset with my church folks, that went no, because I don't understand why they couldn't relate to me and why some people just ignored me, and because grief is very uncomfortable for a lot of people. And many people do not know how to approach.
How did you
And
find your comfort? How did you get your blessing through
the
this?
blessings that I got was this. One, it definitely kind of leveled the field.
Yes.
I realized I missed so much people. I missed touching people on a psychological level. And I think Jesus does really hit it on that level when he said, blessed, he's connecting with them. And a lot of times we more avoid these kind of people, or we do not know what to say. So I've learned now how to sharpen my skills, how to really enter into somebody's world who is grieving and know how to do it wisely and know how to do it with a level of empathy and understanding. And I do now understand, maybe more than other people, the biological aspect of grief as well as the mourning aspect of grief. And so now I am much more sensitive to that reality and maybe less judgmental of other
Mhm.
people's grief. Like if they said that they lost their pet, and I said, "Boy, what can you talk about? So we are going so far." You, or if a girl had a miscarriage, you have another baby man. Those kind of narratives, and you're not realizing what's happening. So I'm now far more understandable. And it took me almost 4.5 years to just come out of that
Took
grief,
time.
grief
Time.
fog.
Yes.
I'm coming into what they call post-traumatic growth now, because now I can see the benefits of grief. Yes.
We can talk about that in a bit. I want to hear from Teresa, and my questions are coming more and more. You know, because you get a little simple verse like this, and there's so many people already writing to me and communicating. One lady says, "Good day, Pastor Blair. I lost three best friends, and they were like blood sisters to me. Also, I lost my dad, and it it wasn't easy for me. I asked God to strengthen me because I love them so much, but God loves them more. Wow, the the absence of friends that you'll never see again, the father, the mother. My mother said to me when her mother died, I said, "Mommy, thank God grandma's gone." And mom said, "Yes, you'll have no more pain, but you only get one mother." It's
Yeah.
stuck with me now for 22 years. For 20 years, you only get one mother, and it's stuck with me.
Yeah.
And which is why, for me, at my age, my life dedicated to God, but rather than try to run after personal goals, having been out of Jamaica for 27 years of my life has now been dedicated to being around my parents. Not about positions in life, but being there to help them, to be there for them. Teresa, what's your story?
Well, I absolutely do have a story, and it's interesting that it's there's similarities between Feliciano's story and mine. But before I get into that, I think it's important that to piggyback on the point that Feliciano was making about the process of grief and the outcomes and the benefits that come at the end of the process. We clearly understand that we're talking about a process, and the process has stages. And sometimes, as you when you hear persons say, "I just can't get over it," and if you drill down and you listen a little bit deeper, they're probably stuck at one of the phases. And for the benefit of the conversation, the phases of grief really are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And it's only when we really get to the bargaining phase that we start to experience those kind that moment, that sort of clarity, and the benefits, so to speak, that Feliciano was speaking about. But oftentimes, in the humanness of it, sometimes we get stuck, depending on how we've lost the person, the stage that the person was in their life, or the thing that is that we've lost, that and our dreams about it, the connection that it had to us. Feliciana made reference to an example of a woman who has a miscarriage, or a marriage that breaks up. Sometimes we may get stuck. I tend to see a lot of people getting stuck at the anger phase. Why did this happen? It should not have happened. He's a good youth, he's a good woman. And we can't move beyond that point. When we get stuck there, we deny ourselves the opportunity to go through the process, but then fully experience those positive outcomes and the ability to now cope. The grief doesn't go away, but we're now able to cope and move on with our own lives,
I'm glad you
because
came
we've
into
now allowed that to
this.
go through.
But I was trying to say this for the last half of the program because the question I wanted to ask is the importance of going through it. You
Mhm.
know, we all have a microwave mentality, so everything must be solved. All feelings must end. Things must just change. But you did mention there is a process, and we have to go through this.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
there will be different stages, yes, different feelings, yes, different emotions, yes, and that's what you've addressed. Um, so many are going through right now, wondering why, but going through is very important. And like I said,
Yeah.
later we want to talk about growing through, not just going through.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
continue, Teresa.
My experience now, as it relates to grief, and I mean there are different ones, and especially in maybe the past the COVID pandemic, there was a particular experience. But I wanted the one that I found that I think is most applicable to this discussion that we're having is similarly to Feliciana, the loss of my dad. I lost my dad in 2013 on very suddenly and in a very traumatic way. Um, and the hardest thing the hardest thing for me to navigate
Okay, just
was, I'm not sure,
mute your
hearing
mic.
something bleeding in.
Yes, yeah, but you can go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. The most difficult thing for me during that couple difficult things during that process for me was, I didn't have a very good relationship with my father. So I knew at some point in time he was going to transition. He was getting on in age, etc. So I had an expectation of what that experience would be. And I was mentally preparing myself. But then when it happened, there was a shock of it because it happened so suddenly. But then there was also things that were essentially subconscious expectations and dreams that I had that I wasn't cognizant of. It was there, but I wasn't really aware of it. But no, I was faced with like a truck hit me. Oh wow, these things that I've been holding on to and these dreams that one day I'm gonna get that thing that I wanted from him and that relationship that I would have wanted from him. It hit me like a 10-ton truck. There are no more tomorrows. I'm out of tomorrows. So it's not going to be that dream of, okay, tomorrow I'm going to get that phone call. Tomorrow I'm going to get that word of acknowledgement, that and I ran out of tomorrows. And that realization struck me so hard. And it was such a huge impact. And then when you add to that, as I would have said, it was under traumatic circumstances. And then just the natural loss of a parent as a woman, the first man to teach me how to love, the first man to all of those father-daughter experiences. I'm not going to get those now. It's over. So
Yes.
that was very, very traumatic. I will say though that my grief process was not seamless. It didn't. I can speak about acknowledge the process and honor it and allow it to go where it needs to go. No, I never did that. I got stuck, and I got to a point where I realized what was happening, and I had to get professional help to help me to navigate it. My village was there. My family, my friends showed up. I wasn't involved in church at the time. I was in my what I call my wandering years. So I didn't have the church community, but I did have my village, and they absolutely showed up.
Did you
And in
communicate with
retrospect,
them though? Was there communication
my
between you two?
they tried. I responded not the best, but I tried because my nature is really to just isolate. That's my
That's
unhealthy
important.
coping mechanism.
It's important
But
that
I
you
did
say that,
try. Hmm.
Teresa, because when I was going through my situation, the same time your father died, or just before your father died, to this day, I don't think I've sat down with my parents to say this is what was happening in my family, or this took place. I just kind of isolated, just like you said. So many of us are isolating and locking ourselves away from true help,
Hmm.
and therefore it's difficult to go through and to move forward. So
Yeah.
stagnation has come. Yes.
Yes. Absolutely. But as I was said, it was only in retrospect that I really understood the gravity of the support that person tried to give to me. I will admit I was not necessarily particularly receptive to it because, as Feliciano would say, you're in this fog where you can't think straight, you can't see straight, you can't process the messages that are coming at you, well intentioned and coming from the best of places, but your capacity to process it is absolutely diminished. But it is, I hope that at the end of us having this type of conversation, the persons either in it or if they when it manifests in their own lives, they will now have a little bit more of an insight to understand when they're feeling and thinking things, what it is, where it's coming from, and how best to embrace it and process it and allow it to go where it needs to go, because this is a very important conversation that we're having.
Terribly. I mean, we three have had our situations, and there are many people out there having theirs now, not knowing where they are. They're I'm going to use the word that both of you have used: stagnant.
Hmm.
Um, TD Jakes would have said stuck, um, and searching, but not allowing people beyond the mask. Um, and so even our loved ones aren't fully aware of where we are. I was very surprised, and sometimes I'm a bit too open. So let me continue being too open. Last week, my uncle passed away, and my father called me 1 o'clock in the morning, say bye to your uncle. He's leaving, and of course I couldn't go back to sleep. I saw my mom in tears, um, and then 2 days later, I said, "You know what? I'm calling my father." I said, "Daddy, you're the one who's there for everybody. Every time I see something happen, you're the one who's showing up. How are you?" I said, "You're the one who's always strong. So you and I are just there." He says, "It's not easy right now. I don't know if I can do this for everybody anymore." And in the Blair family, we don't normally see Blairs. We're not used to Blairs passing away. 14 children, and all of them were still here, and all of their kids. A wife had died, but we're just not used to seeing a Blair pass away. And I said, "Daddy, are you okay?" And he says, "Hmm." He said, "Yes, but I just don't know if I can be the strong one for everybody every day anymore."
Hmm.
And I'm saying, "Well, I'm here." Not that I believe it would mean the world to him, but I think it means the world to him. And I said, I love you. Uh, we have to express ourselves.
Mhm.
It's we have 5 minutes to a break. Let's continue. Um,
If I
Merlin,
can just interject quickly for the
yes,
point you made about expressing ourselves,
hmm
it's important that we express ourselves, but those who are receiving that expression are in a space to hear it. It's important that we allow persons the safe space to do it and remove our opinions, remove our corrections, remove our perceptions of what is right and what is wrong, and just allow persons a safe space to express and be heard. And I think that's
yes,
absolutely critical.
yes. Merlin Drysdale says, I lost my father and my friends last year, a month apart. It's so hard. And she didn't finish the sentence. She said, I took the phone to call her daughter, which would have been a friend, and I could, I guess she's trying to write, I could not. Um, so much happening out there, so much happening. There's such a need for comfort. And, the question I was going to ask her, she spoke about it, that is Teresa Benjamin. We are going to go through. We're going to go through the emotional situations. We're going to go through the struggles. Um, but as we go through, we understand from Scripture that whatever the situation may have been, um, the Bible does say, um, Paul said, sorrow, but not as those who have no hope. In addition to natural sorrow, there's supernatural or godless sorrow that leads to repentance. And he says that Christ is always the answer. Um, Not one of those who just push everything religious to people, but somehow when we look at the stories in the Bible of situations and things taking place, whether it was Joseph in the pit, his brothers throwing them into the pit, and then him being taken out because one brother decided he's not going to be killed. Let's sell him into slavery, and he's chained and taken away, and then he's lied on. You know, there are going to be situations. You're in the prison right now. Some of you may be listening, and maybe you're not even guilty, and you've been mourning. And we pray for you today, and we encourage you. Oh boy, I almost feel like taking a break, Nadine. Oh wow. Yeah, I wanna we're gonna talk when we get back from the break about growing through this. Um, we're gonna talk about getting up and going forward. Um, Let me just go back to Teresa again because I have 3 minutes to the break. Teresa,
Mhm.
um, so somebody is listening, and we're seeing people expressing themselves, and we want to tell people, call in 968-8327, 968-8328. You have two people better than me here. I'm just a pastor, and they're counselors, everything else. And we've all expressed our own level of pain, so you can call in. Teresa, somebody right now is saying, boy, uh, I need to get strong, right? I, I need to move beyond stuck.
Mm.
And you mentioned just before I interrupted, getting there, getting beyond the village. Just speak. Just give us one of your motivational 1 minute line things. Yes, I'm pulling you out today.
That's okay. That's fine. I have no problem with that. Remove the word strong from your vocabulary. Let's start there. You experiencing your
What word?
feeling, remove the word strong from your
Okay.
vocabulary. Being stuck is not an indication of weakness. And then the person who is growing and moving beyond, it's not an indication of strength. It is an indication of you being acknowledging where you are, where you want to go, and now starting to pursue that. So let's take that out of the equation, because when we talk about strong or weak, it creates a feeling of inferiority versus superiority, and we want to dispel that in its entirety. Beyond that, allow yourself to feel what you are feeling. It is okay. Don't suppress it. It's not wrong. Don't force yourself also into somebody else's box as it relates to the process.
Yes.
My process might be 5 years for namesake. Feliciano's process might be 7. Yours, Pastor Blair, might be 10. None of us are right or wrong. As long as on an individual level, we're acknowledging that we're constantly growing and moving a pace for our own journey. So that's another thing where we put a lot of pressure on ourselves. But him did lose him wife same time as me, and look on him now. Him start date somebody, and him going him doing him look good and him healthy. And that's his journey. That's not yours. So never do comparisons. If you realize that you are stuck, and as much as you try and push yourself, you're not moving, it's okay to seek help. Get some, whether it be a counselor, psychologist, therapist, your pastor, to help you to now move forward. They will bring a level of clarity and objectivity to the table that you may not have, and that will help
Thank
you
you.
in the journey.
Thank you. We go to the break. It's the time for the time signal. This is Love. We'll be right back on The Rock. And we're not just going to talk about what you're going through. We're going to be there with you and bring you through in just a minute.
Are you a tourism worker? Then sign up for the Ministry of Tourism's innovative Tourism Workers Pension Scheme and retire in comfort. The time by the Ministry of Tourism is
11:31.
Jamaica, taste it all. Yeah, well crispy fried chicken, please.
Yeah, with Pepsi.
2 orders of spicy jerk pork.
Yeah, with Pepsi.
Give me some cheesy patties.
Yeah, with Pepsi.
Hey, can I get extra curry gravy?
Yeah, with Pepsi.
Make me some fried escovitch fish.
Yeah, with Pepsi.
Taste it all. Yeah, with Pepsi.
Pepsi.
Get ready for another Testimony Tuesday inside Alive, 1 to 5, May 3. 2 o'clock will be time for Prayer Blast. More prayer, more power. 2:15 inside the evidence. We hear from Wayne Bryce and his testimony of deliverance after being held up at gunpoint. Then at 3 p.m., we go behind the pulpit with Apostle Dr. Carolyn Graham of the Hour of Prayer Global Gospel Ministries. All this and more will come your way inside Alive, 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. with me, Sarah Am, the chirpy one on the family station. Love 101.
Hey, small people, welcome to May, and it's Child Month. This Tuesday, May 3, is Read Across Jamaica Day, and we want you to read for us. We open the phone lines this Tuesday at 4 p.m. inside the Small People Show with Auntie Colleen, and you get to read your favorite story for us. Make it short and sweet. Don't forget now, Read Across Jamaica Day is endorsed by the Small People Show right here on Love 101, the family station.
Mr. Steve Blair, I've been listening to your program and I had a little thing to share. You know, I lost my dad in 2013, and after when I went to bury my dad, my husband walked out. So I lost my dad and I lost my husband at that same time. But God were there. He were there. It wasn't an easy task, but God were there. So those who are mourning, those who are grieving, just remember that God promised that He will never leave us nor forsake us. You know, my husband left. He left in 2013, and now he's no longer. He passed off last year, May. You know, so it's not easy, but God promised to take us through. So those who are mourning, just trust God and know that He will see you. Know that
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I'm happy that you've grown through it. We have a phone call. Hello, good day.
Good
Welcome to
morning, Reverend Blair,
Hi.
and good morning to your panel. I thank you for this program, and I must go back on something the sister said regarding us that are, trying to express sympathy because sometimes out of our love for them, we go about it the wrong way. And there are different types of grief that turns into mourning. And as I speak with you today, I'm in the middle of some because a girlfriend of mine just lost her first grandchild. He's now only on a piece of paper, never made it. Another girlfriend of mine had the baby for 3 weeks and was buried. A 3 weeks old baby was buried. I couldn't even go on Zoom how I was torn. And I thank the Lord for this program, for Love 101, and for you beautiful people that the Lord is using to present these programs that we can learn and grow from these programs. So there's much more I could say, but I won't take up the time. Others would like to call, but bless you all. I do ask the Almighty to bless Love 101 and bless you all as from time to time as you do these beautiful programs. So thank you for allowing me to take my call.
Thank you for your call.
Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
I think we have another voice note. Let's go to the voice note, please. You can send in your voice note.
Concern. I was here listening to the program. I try to listen to every Tuesday, and about the grieving. I lost my son early last year. Early last year in March 17. A man, he was a pastor, Open Bible Church, and when I get the news, I was so numb. I'm a believers, firm believers, and when I get that news, when my daughter break the news, she say, when she get the news and she say, lie, me say, Alice is what she don't want to tell me. Me say, tell me, she tell me. And I start to beat the wall and say, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. And it was then I shout and I scream and I say, God, you have to help me. God, me not let you go. God, me not going to depend on you. God, me not going to trust you. You have to carry through this. And that's what I said. And I continue to hold on upon God. And I get called from all over. And they couldn't reach to me. When they were trying to get to me to counsel me and to encourage me, I was the one who was encouraging them. And his wife, which is my daughter-in-law, put me onto a counselor, professional counselor. And when that counselor called me and started to share with me, and I went up to her, she said, Miss Clark, he's the first grieving person I talk to. And it's you a counsel me, not me counsel you. I just give everything to God and say, God, it is your will. If it wasn't your will, it would happen. And no, at times I feel it and I break down and cry, but I learn to balance and stand up. That is my little intake on it.
Okay. Let's go to some of the Facebook comments because I do have one that touches me quite strongly. She's written in two parts. That's Patricia Ambersley. She says, Good morning, Pastor Blair. My son passed away December. I cannot forget it. And one, which is the last message that came in at 11:36. 10 minutes later, she writes these words, Pray for me. I am just so broken in tears. Uh, so many like you there today. And that's why we have this program, because this next half hour is dealing with going through, dealing with getting the comfort, dealing with depending on the Lord. Let's see what else is here. Merlene says, I lost my friends. Okay, I've said hers already. Iona Brown says, wow, we can never be prepared for death, even when our loved ones are old. And that is so true. That's so true. Um, Patricia does say something else, and this is something that I would probably bring to our guest in a minute. She says, Pastor, every Wednesday I remember his death. Every Wednesday I remember his death. Wow. And then finally, Cherry Meredith says, Good morning, everyone. Many times we try to put a time on how long one should grieve. There's no time span on grief. Each person grieves differently. The most important thing to do and help is for them not to get depressed. Let's bring back in our guest. We've had a wonderful program, and we really want to take the next next 18 minutes to help someone, Teresa and Feliciana. We've been helping
Yes.
But right now, we want to help them. I can't say we're going to force growth, but we want to help them through, and we want to help them to grow. I do have a verse I'm going to throw out there, um, and this verse comes from 2 Corinthians 13, verse 4. Praise be to the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of compassion and the God of all comfort, who comforts us in all troubles. And this one just shook me when I read it, Feliciano. It says, who comforts us in all troubles so that we can comfort those in any trouble with the comfort we ourselves receive from the Lord. Oh,
Yes.
Teresa, I see you smiling. So let us help people now through what they're going through, and let us encourage them to receive the comfort of the Lord.
That that scripture says it all. I mean, this is why people like Feliciana and myself do what we do. Well, Feliciana, I'm putting myself out on a limb and just kind of bringing you into the
That's why
team.
we do. Yes. That's why we
That's
are
why we
here.
do, absolutely. And I think I absolutely believe that us being able to do what we do and articulate things the way we do, it's not us being just super smart kids and at the front of the class. The Lord has placed a special calling on us for service and serving in this particular way. So with all of that being said, it is a difficult season, yes, but I absolutely sit here before you and there is hope. It is not, there's absolutely hope. It's not a
Yes.
place that you're going to enter into and you're never going to leave. Your things are going to change. You, the individual, when you go through the process, are going to change, but you will come out on the other end a renewed version of yourself. And with that experience that you have gone through and the growth that inevitably takes place during that process, you are a new version of yourself, a better version of yourself who's able to move forward and pour into other persons by just sharing your experiences and your testimony of how, as you went through that season, how God shows up for you, and be that beacon of hope to the next person who's going to go, all right, I now have a living representation of how someone can go through it, go through loss and trauma and grief, and come out on the other side whole, patched a few band-aids here and there, a few scars here and there, but whole, hopeful, and moving forward.
I'm going to pause, stop you for a second. We have another phone call. Let's bring the caller in. Good morning. Welcome to the Rock.
Soon as I spoke to you about the death of my mother and my brother, I'm here moving around in the house and the spirit shows me. You talked about Psalm 46. Keep it in your mind. You know, it says God is our refuge and strength, very present help in times of trouble. And here we saw that this psalmist was going through problems, and he gives us the assurance of comfort in times of trouble. You know, God is in all that we are facing, brother. Sickness, disease, pain, and difficulties. He's there to keep us. Let us put our hope and trust in the Lord.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes. Putting our hope and trust in the Lord. Back to you, Teresa. Sorry, but when the
No,
call
that's
comes
fine.
in, we can take it.
No, absolutely, that's fine. So yeah, that caller just hit on something for me, but it's as it relates to know specifically what the process looks like. Feliciana would have spoken a bit about what the outcome looks like, and I started on the whole process of the stages of it. It is important that we allow ourselves, as I would have said earlier, for those phases to evolve and to go through, not be interrupted, not to resist it, not to fight it. Equally, also though, don't try and navigate this alone. It's absolutely critical that we don't try and do this alone. The village will show up. We need to accept it. We need to receive it. We need to embrace it and allow them to support us as we go through it. One of the I think I was one of the Facebook persons made a comment about not going into depression. we need to acknowledge that depression is a part of the human emotional experience. The critical thing with depression, though, is not allowing ourselves to stay in that space for a protracted period of time and allow it essentially to consume us. But it is a natural part of the grief process and the human experience.
Okay,
And
thank you for a
again,
phone call.
okay.
Yes. Good morning, caller.
Hi, good morning.
Morning to you.
It's a privilege to be a part of the show to share, or this segment to share my experience. I am a mother of two, but I only have one living. In 2019, I had a son, and he was born with his intestine blocked. And by the third day of his life, he was in major surgery. And he did a couple of surgeries and lived for 6 weeks. I've always been in church all my life. Loved the Lord from I was a child. Decided that I was going to stay and dwell in the house of the Lord. And I came upon this situation that was so difficult for me to understand how it is that wicked to love the Lord from a tender age was going through something like this. How is it that God had provided everything for this child without me even asking? I received everything I wanted for this baby, even more than I had for my daughter. And the Lord took him. It was very difficult for me to process. I did grief. I did therapy subsequent to the loss. I kept questioning God, why this, why me, why this experience. I had faith so much that even to the point or at the moment that he was dying, I still believed that God could have raised him up. And I started to question. But then I started to find the answers to the questions and to start to see God a different way. One scripture that I read day in, day out, when I get up in the morning and read it, when the tears start to flow and my heart feels heavy in the day I'm reading it, in the night I'm reading it, it was Psalm 91. And the last verse says, with long life will I satisfy him and show him my salvation. And there are several passages within that scripture that really just haunted me.
Hello?
I'm not hearing you. Yes, I'm hearing you now.
Yes. Because I was just listening to you. I didn't want to interrupt you. But thank you. I thank God that He was able to use the word and to bring you through.
Yes, yes.
Have a good day. I want to wrap up. I don't think I'll take another call because I want our guests to help in terms of speaking towards comfort. We have about 8, maybe 9 minutes because I do want to pray for people today. So let's go back to Teresa. And as you wrap up what you're saying, I want us to speak towards receiving comfort and also growing through because it's not going to just disappear. So I'll leave that with you. And then as I come to Feliciano, I see you were answering a question from the producer, and I'll throw that one at you so that you can wrap up with them. All right?
Yes, certainly.
Okay.
All right, I'll try and be as succinct as I can. I understand the time is upon us. I will say this. When I was going through my journey, one of the scripture that I leaned on for a lot of comfort, even though at the time I was still finding my way back to my relationship with God, was in the 23rd Psalm, thy rod and thy staff will comfort me. And it connected for me in a very tactile way, in a practical way, that there's going to be a physical presence to comfort me. And even though I couldn't quite understand or embrace how it was manifesting, I held on to that this is real. It's going to happen, and that helped me. And the psalm on a whole, but that verse particularly connected with me in the season. So absolutely, the message that everyone has been sharing, I stand with you on that. God is our refuge.
Mm.
But the thing we need to add to that though is we need to avail ourselves to see and embrace when he provides that in practical ways. His spirit will comfort us, absolutely, but he also provides in practical ways. And avail ourselves of that. Do be intentional, do the self-assessment, be self-aware, and see, identify where the shortcomings are, or where we need help. Shortcomings is not the word, I take that back. Where are the areas that we need the help, and avail ourselves of it, and allow the process to go where it needs to go, and allow ourselves just to experience it and feel what we feel and go through the journey.
Yes, so important. Um, the the process, the process. You spoke about the process. Um, just give, as because people have joined on as we've gone ahead. Just give
Mhm.
those three steps of the process again, and then just give them an encouragement regarding going through.
Confirm it's a grief process we're speaking of.
Yes.
Okay, so it's five
I think you
steps,
mentioned denial.
five
Okay.
phases rather. Yeah.
Okay.
Denial. First phase is that denial. Then it evolves into anger. Then that evolves into bargaining, which gives way to depression. And then the final phase is the acceptance. And then moving forward into what I like to call the new normal. And it's important that we acknowledge that it's going to be a new normal. Um, Whatever has been lost is not coming back, and life will not be the same with its absence. So there is a new normal that we can look forward to with anticipation, and as it manifests, embrace it and move forward with it.
Okay. So Feliciano, the
Yes.
question asked by the producer to you, which you began to answer, what does final comfort look and feel like?
As I was saying, I was telling, I think her name is Kathy.
Kathy.
I think it's Kathy if you're listening. Um, it's when you have worked through the process, like what Teresa was really highlighting. And they're not in, even though there are stages, they're not set in stone. You can go through any of these stages in any season. Um, and maybe you're at the bargaining stage. Maybe you said, maybe if I had done this, if I had done this would not have happened. But what the stages does is it gives us a voice, or it put words to what we are feeling or experiencing. And it helps us to unpack those um, very complicated feelings of grief. So growing through grief, we come to acknowledge where we are at. And I think one of the best persons to go to help is to go to a counselor, somebody who is very understanding about grief, because they will help you to find your strength, or help you to see your strength in the midst of the grief. Because a lot of times it might sound contradictory, but the reality is you are finding you're becoming a new person, and your position has definitely changed because you have lost the person. Whether you're an orphan, whether you're a widow, like maybe the person died, you're divorced, you're single back again. All you have to be dealing with all of these realities, and you have to accept these secondary losses, and you have to come to terms with them, which is the acceptance stage, as Miss Tarisha was talking about, so that you can learn to manage. I'm not going to say move on, because I don't believe you really move on, but you learn to move forward with the grief and to adjust back successfully. And piggybacking on what my colleagues have been saying, do not allow society to microwave your grief. The workplace and everybody is going to be moving forward, and you are like, don't, don't anybody see that I'm mourning. But you don't allow anybody to micro manage or to microwave your grief. Your grief is your grief, and your grief is your journey. One of the things I believe the church It's very important that you identify your support mechanism, because not everybody is going to understand what you go through. And you have to accept that. And it might be some of your close friends, and that will hurt. That will hurt, but the reality is not everybody will understand what you're going through, and that is okay. But find people who you can talk to, who will not judge you because you're grieving, might be longer than it should be, and that will definitely help you to know that you're not alone. And you're not alone. And this is why this platform is created today. And we, like Teresa and myself and Mr. Blair is here, we're educating the public on the reality that grief is not, doesn't has to be an isolating experience. It is, we're a community, and we're here to encourage and to strengthen each other. And this is why we're here today. So find somebody like me and Teresa to help you to grow, so you can constantly talk. Even if you are just back to life naturally, you'll always talk in the present about this person you lost, and that is okay.
All right, thank you. I'm going to read two messages. Then I'll read a verse. And Teresa, I'm going to pick on you again. I'm going to ask you to pray. Is that okay with you?
That's okay.
So many there today, morning, so many with a loss. So real quickly, good morning, everyone. This is from Aline Sisharan. I lost my husband of 34 years. He died on a Sunday. Whenever it comes to a Sunday, I'm lost, especially in the night. Please pray for me. My son's birthday was yesterday. Father was his best friend. Wow. There's so much that goes on out there with grief, with mourning. Ione Brown says, I lost my mom and dad in the same year. My dad died January 28th. My mom died August 28th, both in the year 2007. Sometimes when I remember them, it really hurts. My mom's birthday was the 27th of April. She died the 28th. And wow, after what, 15 years? It still hurts. I quoted a portion of a verse earlier, and that verse was from Isaiah 61. I read from the New Living Translation. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me. For the Lord has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He has sent me to comfort the brokenhearted, to proclaim that captives will be released and prisoners will be freed. He has sent me to tell those who mourn that the time of the Lord's favor has come. Ah, Teresa, you have 1 minute. 1 minute. Go ahead.
Father, we thank you for this opportunity together to share that which you have imparted into us. Dear Lord, I bring before you your sons and daughters who are grieving, who are hurting in unimaginable ways, struggling to cope with their individual realities. Dear Lord, I pray that you raise each and every one of them up and you touch them in a real practical way, that they will feel and they will know that it's you. They will not be distracted and think it's their mind playing tricks on them. I pray, dear Lord, that you will fill their homes with your comfort. Give them everything that they need to navigate this season, dear Lord. Give them strength, give them wisdom, give them courage to push through and persevere and walk into the future that you have destined for them. Dear Lord, I thank you that as we gather together, that your word will come to pass and they will see and feel you in their lives. And I thank you in advance, dear Lord, for what you will do for each and every one of them, your sons and your daughters. And I thank you in Jesus' mighty name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Teresa. Thank you, Feliciano, for joining us. Thank you, all the listeners out there. Our time is up, but I do want to say, if you are mourning, may the peace of God be yours. And thank you to those who've written me or called my phone or sent messages to my WhatsApp to say sorry for my loss and condolences to our family. Um, I thank you. It's not been an easy week. The Lord bless and keep you. The Lord let his face shine upon you, and may he give you his strength and his peace in Jesus' name. See you next week on The Rock. I'm Steve Blair.
For all your electrical, industrial, lighting, and energy